invasion of Ukraine marks a turning point in the European history, calling on us to adopt decisions and actions that would have been unthinkable just a few months ago. So I'm saying that because it's a question of priority and hierarchy. And the events since the 24th of February adjust and fix priority and the hierarchies of the priorities, even for a country which is not a neighbor of this area, like our country. For this reason, I want to stress the position of Italy, because it's the evidence. It's not a question that matters only for Poland, Baltic states. The defense of our values is the defense of our geostrategical position. We intervene in this very moment with a huge amount of measures, a 6 package of sanctions, micro and macro financial assistance, humanitarian assistance, military support. We had as a political result also the enlargement of the NATO, but we have to stay to the fact the European destiny of Ukraine, it's a fact, it's not an opinion, and everybody has to work in order to have this fact as reality for the future. But we have at the same time to remain pragmatic in the sense that we have not to put a limit to our ambition, but we will have to use all the possible instruments in order to get this result. We have to go step by step, not only for logical reasons, but also for the economic and social one. The logical reasons, for example, we have to concentrate ourselves on micro and macro financial assistance as far as the reconstruction of the country is concerned. We put in place an instrument, but of course, before to reconstruct, I have to see somehow an end to the conflict, and not only for humanitarian reasons, but just to know what, where, and when we are going to reconstruct. As far as the different steps that are the main challenges of Ukraine and also the other candidate countries, the analysis of the Commission was, of course, influenced by political reasons, but they took into account all the progress that were made by Ukraine since 2014 until today. And there are 7, 8 elements to implement. Let's say that the most of them are in the framework of the judiciary system and the rule of law, and also anti-oligarchic system law, etc. We believe that Ukraine has all the possible standards. But what is important to say is that while it's changing the destiny of Ukraine, we have to bear in mind that we are all aware of that, that is changing our own destiny of the European Union, the Western country, and the West as a whole.
When it comes to foreign policy, enlargement has proved a very potent instrument for stabilizing the European neighborhood, for exporting stability. So it proved extremely successful for stabilizing the countries from Eastern Europe and help them transition towards democracy, rule of law, and European standards. In perspective, it has to be used for the same purpose for the Western Balkan stabilization and the quote-unquote Europeanization. And it was used in June to send a strong signal, a clear message of solidarity to Ukraine in its endeavor and in this struggle for its freedom. Enlargement is also a transformative policy. Why? because the European Union does not expand, does not conquer, it brings into the family in a way. When you are a member of the European Union, you enter in the, you get into the driving seat. So you are really part of all the tools and the machinery. I call it reverse Caracalla. Caracalla was a Roman emperor that in 2012 extended the Roman citizenship to all the citizens of the empire. Now, Rome conquered first, and then at a certain moment decided to grant citizenship to the citizen of the empire. The European Union does the opposite. It first asks you to become citizens, European citizens, in fully fledged European citizens, and then it brings you in. There is work to be done. First of all, the first step is monitoring the full respect of so-called Copenhagen criteria. It's the condition for opening the negotiation. And then there will be a process that is merit-based, which Ukraine as a candidate country will have to negotiate the adoption of the European rules and standard, what they call the acquis. This is not about bureaucracy. This is about the nature of the European process, which is, as I say, a transformative process. I would prefer to speak about the Ukrainian choice, because it's the European future of Ukraine is a choice of Ukraine and is a choice of the European Union. And now we need we will need an effort to sustain this choice on both sides, European and
the main thing of our external communication improvement, I think, for the future, that our technical exercise was done very well in aligning European acquis in Ukraine and in actual sector-based integration. Now we already have invitation from the European Union to join common transit, custom transit. We have a road liberalization agreement. We have very productive negotiations on roaming. We are approaching further than DCFTA. So we are really coming very, very close to what was mentioned before as a single market. But of course, there are many things to do. We have seen the 7 recommendations, which are crucial for us for opening negotiations. As a government, we already proposed an action plan, what should be done to meet this recommendation by the end of the year. This action plan includes not only governmental structures, because basically recommendations are touching accomplish reforms in constitutional court, in anti-corruption, even though very big progress is recognized. So it's just a matter of accomplishing it on time and sending a signal, which is very important for the member states, especially in anti-corruption area. We also have analyzed our association agreement, and we already provided a list of legislation that should be adopted to meet from legislative point, implement association agreement 100%. And we already have a political will from our president that this draft laws should be ready by autumn, and then the ball will go to the parliament on a quick adoption. So we are ready to move very quickly in all areas which are possible in the conditions of war. As for reconstruction and all these things that are very important, of course, now for Ukraine, we understand that no one knows when the time of safe investments will come. But already now we have some urgent needs where we really count on help of member states. First of all, it's demining, because Russian mined all territories where they've been. Or every village which is occupied by Russian, what they do, they immediately destroy water, gas, and energy supply. So we need, when we free our territories, we need to restore and renovate this water, gas, and energy supplied before the winter, because it's crucial for people living there. So this is something that probably does not require some very, very big decisions like real reconstruction of the territory, but it requires sustainable and also technical approach in supporting us with this. Our only way now to replace our seaport, our deliveries through the seaports that were done before through the seaports is Danube River. And it's important to invest probably and create completely new infrastructure on the Danube River in order to export agricultural products through the Europe to the rest of the world, because unfortunately it doesn't seem easy, or it doesn't seem that we will have control on the Black Sea in the nearest future, and this global food crisis could be only avoided if we will have some sustainable export mechanisms through road transport, rail transport, and Danube River.
We have always belonged to European civilization. The problem is that over the last 300 or 400 years, we've been, with the help of Russian Empire, then the Soviet Union, and then the Russian Federation, we've been erased from the mental, cultural, and historic map of the world. And it took us a lot of efforts, basically from regaining independence 30 years ago, but more importantly, or with more strength, start to return ourselves back on the map, starting from the beginning of this full scale of the invasion. Okay, not full scale at that particular moment, back in 2014. But we still have not been very well heard. But some of the decisions or indecisions or indecisiveness or inaction of the world that we believe in and of the values that we are not only carrying through, but we are also very fiercely defending today. Our nation, our soldiers, our community, our society as such, mobilizing itself. Those values have been, to an extent, disregarded. They were taken for granted by many European nations and have decided that those values should not be, don't need protection anymore. And we Ukrainians are proving by our own example that they not only need protection, but they need a very strong protection and common effort in order to prevail and in order to survive and then prevail. I really believe that without Ukraine, neither European nor Euro-Atlantic civilizational project won't really succeed in the future. So for us, I think it's a task right now to actually decide and work. And maybe Aspen Institutes are such a platform which are capable of working on content, on senses, and they can produce some new ideas how to, with taking this painful lessons, how to ensure that we really are upgrading these projects that have been proven capability over tens over the last decades, that have been proven their efficiency after the Second World War. But now I think they need refreshment. Anchoring Ukrainian future in the Western project, in the European project, by giving this candidacy status has been very important. And we are really, really seriously grateful, because I believe that this is a very serious, both positive sign for Ukrainian society, which has now the light at the end of the tunnel, that it's not only war that has to preoccupy our minds, but it's also the possibility to transform the country in the future. But also, I think it's about additional energy, or an additional input that has to also change the European community, the European Union, also from within, by creating additional instruments that can be helpful on this way of transformation. You have the strongest partner here in the Ukrainian society, and that's exactly the strongest partner that any of the European institutions have in the Ukrainian state at this particular moment. We need your support in building our capacity, institutional capacity. We need your support in difficult transformation that will still be required by this pace of changing the country after the war is over. But we also know that right now there are also opportunities. If there is a political will in the country, that we can deliver on some of the changes, and especially those preconditions that have been stated in the decision of the European Council, and can actually, even during the wartime, achieve that stage that we can open the negotiations on membership. I do hope that the new possibilities, and by transforming the country, we will be able to remind everybody who Ukrainians are, not only by our resolute and absolutely courageous fight against Russian Federation, but also by the new ideas that we can bring to the table. I know we can bring to the table, for example, something that is totally helping us today to withhold this attack. It's the ability of Ukrainians to build horizontal ties, to build the networks that are moving the country, or our ability to withhold the attack forward. So I think that that's just one of the ideas that will be very useful for the EU also in the future.